You're listening to Money Making Mothers with Carla Edwards, where we discuss the highs and lows of being a working parent, how to master the art of spinning plates, and to remind ourselves that just because you became a mother does not mean your dreams no longer exist. You can have it all.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Money Making Mothers, where I am joined by Heidi. Now, this lady is absolutely phenomenal. This episode is going to pull on your heartstrings, be inspirational, and also make you really think about how lucky you are to not only be healthy, but have healthy children and live the life you do. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed interviewing her.
Hello there, everybody, on this lovely summery day in Bristol. My name is Heidi Loughlin, and I am a 37, about to be 38-year-old mum of two. Today, I have been cajoled by Carla to come along and bore you within an inch of your life for 30 minutes about my life. Not all of it, because it's a long time. The last sort of 5 or 6 years, really, which I would say slightly unusual, maybe something you haven't heard before, and you'll think it's bollocks, but it isn't. It's not a shit storyline for like EastEnders or anything. It's absolutely real, and it's basically my take on everything that's happened. So I hope you like it. Carla's told me she's going to ask me 4 questions and told me to talk for as long as possible. Well, I'm a massive waffler, so if we fit this into 30 minutes, I'll be gobsmacked.
I'll keep it, love.
And Carla's been told that she's got to keep her mouth shut, so I'm interested to see how that's going to go, to be honest. Take it away, Carla.
Right, so I'm going to try my best to keep my mouth shut as much as I can. First question I want to ask you, love, is why do you do what you do?
There's a few reasons that I do what I do. Initially, when I started becoming a blog writer, because I wanted to raise awareness about a situation that I found myself in, which was being diagnosed with an extremely rare form of breast cancer called inflammatory breast cancer. And that was also while I was pregnant. That was very difficult. Something I'd never dealt with. I'd never known anybody who'd had cancer in pregnancy. And, you know, it was a really unusual cancer that had been misdiagnosed several times. And I was motivated to start writing and talking about it because, quite frankly, I was pissed off that I hadn't heard about it and that my doctors hadn't heard about it. And subsequently, the midwife hadn't heard about it. And I thought that was crazy in this sort of day and age. So I thought, well, I felt so out of control being diagnosed with cancer at the age of 32. So I grabbed hold of one thing that I could control. And I thought, right, what can I do? Rather than this all being shit and negative from straight off the bat, I can maybe do something to maybe stop this happening from somebody else, which is a classic cliche that we all sort of pump out there, that we want this never to happen to someone else. But actually, that's exactly how I felt. That if there was some opportunity for me to stop this from happening to somebody else, that I could do that by putting inflammatory breast cancer on the radar of women, and not just women that are a lot older, that seem to be more in tune with their bodies, people our age that actually just always think that it's nothing, because we've historically been told breast cancer is for people in their 60s or whatever. Raising awareness about the fact that actually that's not always the case. So that is why I started talking about it, and started writing a blog, and which I, to be honest, never thought anyone would read, because I'm not exactly a writer. But I like to swear, and apparently people like to hear people swearing, and it went down really well, and it was very warts and all, because that's exactly like I am. Gross details of chemo and this, that and the other, and
The real reality of it.
yeah, like keeping it real, because we know there's no two ways about it. Cancer is a big steaming pile of shit, but when you're a person that sort of deals with humor in your life, like me, not everything's a joke, but that's one of my coping strategies, is always to try and look on the bright side of things and try and laugh my way through things. I just thought, well, I can't be the only person. And so many blogs out there, when I looked, were all really depressing. Like, woe is me, which I understand because it is shit, and you're allowed to feel sorry for yourself. But actually, I wanted to read something that was a little bit more like, yeah, it's shit. However, these are the normal things that I'm going through day to day, and I'm still finding time to laugh. So I wanted to push that onto other people. So the more the blog got shared, and it was, you know, and it is worldwide, it has a worldwide following now, Storm in a Tit Cup. You know, it motivated me to keep going, because obviously there were so many people out there like getting in touch saying, oh my God, I'm so relieved to finally read something. It isn't all fucking depressing. And I thought, well, yeah, because I know I'm not unique. I know I'm not the only one who wants to deal with things like that. So just, you know, that kept me going. And the more sort of support and everything that I got from other people, the more empowered I felt. And I felt like I was doing something. When everything else around me was like blowing up, I felt that that's the one thing I could control. So it kind of went from there, really. God, that was a long answer, wasn't it?
Oh, so what did it go from the blog? What did that turn into? So
from the blog, I then started doing TV, radio, you know, which was it was a big news story. A woman, you know, with rare type of cancer is pregnant because I declined treatment so that I could carry on with my pregnancy. And while some people thought that I was really selfish because I already had 2 other children at home that needed me, a lot of people thought it was incredibly brave. I didn't think one way or the other in a lot of ways. I just had to deal with what I was dealing with, which is that I had a 3rd child coming that I loved just as much as the 2 that were already here. And I knew I'd lived with me for 32 years, and I knew that I couldn't go through with an abortion, which is what I was informed was probably the best decision to make, because cancer was spreading really, really rapidly, because it had been undiagnosed for about 9 months by the time it was found out.
By the time I actually listened to you.
Yeah, but you know, it was the 3rd doctor that I'd seen that actually said, yeah, no, that isn't what they thought it was, which was Mystitis. I kept being told repeatedly, because I was still breastfeeding my 2nd son. I was repeatedly told I had Mystitis, and I was like, you know, when you just know it, yes, that's not the case. And I suppose because I'm a bit stubborn and I kept going back, that's probably in a lot of ways, which in the long run helped me. But I'd gone for 9 months with this cancer that can double in size in 72 hours. It's really, really aggressive. But then I declined treatment to carry on with my pregnancy. So it was headline news because I'd written the blog and people were picking up on it, and it was being shared all over the place. So then I was doing regional news and then national news, and I was going on chat shows, and I was in magazines and all this, you know, all off the back of trying to raise awareness. And I don't always swear. Obviously, I don't swear when I'm on the TV or the radio. And so was able to put across, I guess, a fairly succinct story. And people liked to listen to it. Not everyone, mind. A lot of people were like, oh, she's just another loudmouth blogger and all that rubbish. And but a lot of people did really like it. And the gift of the gab, some people would say, but it's probably more that I just get verbal diarrhea. And so from that, a lady called Tony Smith approached me. She was one of my blog followers, and she hounded me about coming to speak at a big network called the Primus Network. Would I, you know, how would I feel about appearing in front of 800 people? Oh my God, I would shit my pants, was my reply. How would I feel about doing that and telling my story and being interviewed? And I thought, well, if I can do it in front of a camera that goes to millions of people, surely I can do it on stage. And in the end, because Tony was so... Pardon? Well, yeah. The thing is, you sort of block them out to a certain extent. A camera is so much easier, but with the people in the audience, I just thought, oh, sod it, you know, pretend they're naked or whatever, which was quite good fun. You know, I thought in the end, yeah, all right, I'll give it a go. And from there, I was able to basically carve out a really good career as a speaker. And people call it a motivational speaker, which makes me feel really cringy because I don't feel like I'm going in to motivate people. I just am a speaker, or some will say inspirational
To me, definitely.
well, no, because that's not my intention. I'm just going out there to tell a story, to raise awareness and slightly entertain people about cancer, which is a bit weird, is a bit niche.
Well, that's
But
where
yeah,
where I'd heard, obviously, from through you doing that at Primus and then coming to see us up here in the north. I've never had so many emotions in one sitting as when I listen to you, and just I think what you do is incredible. So I think
thank you.
you are inspiring, no matter what way you want to look at it. You definitely are inspiring, but at the same time, it's weird because you make people feel happy as well, because it's, how have you took everything that's happened and still making a joke out of it? Like, it's
and I think that's a great feeling, to know that I can get that across to people and they don't just necessarily walk out feeling, oh my god, that poor tragic woman and everything that's happened to her, that people can come away going, oh my god, that poor tragic woman, what's happened to her, but oh my god, she's so like full of life. Because what happened was, after I declined the treatment, knowing full well the risks I was taking, my baby was born 28 weeks, planned premature birth, and was extremely healthy for a 28-weeker. And as life shits out these curveballs as it does, my daughter Ali caught an infection in hospital, completely unrelated to anything else that she'd already been through with me having chemo whilst pregnant. She died. And it was not something that I think, in my head, I thought, when you've had so much crap already, surely no more crap will come. And then when that happened, it's hard to explain. It's a real kick in the teeth, a kick in the guts, unreal. I felt I couldn't actually quite believe what was happening, that everything we'd been through to that point, and I'd risked my life for her, so romantically and poetically, obviously she was going to be fine. She had a 95% chance of survival, being born at 28 weeks. I couldn't carry her to term because I would have died, because the cancer was spreading so much. So when she died, it was unreal, and just more than maybe what people think when they have a trauma in their life, that they're never going to get something like that. So then I had to go on to have more treatment that she'd been born early to enable me to have, which made me feel completely responsible for her death initially, and that as her mum, I should have held on and I should have died for her, because that's what a mother would do. And I was prepared to do that, but because the statistics, 95% chance of survival at that time, it just made complete sense that then I would be there to also bring her up, because then I could go on for treatment. But the way I'd seen it is I'd knocked on the wrong door, or opened the wrong door. When there was all these doors of choices about what I should and shouldn't do, I'd picked the wrong fucking door, and it was horrific. And in that time, that haze of grief, I found out the cancer was incurable anyway. So I thought, of course it fucking is. That's what's the case, isn't it? That's going to be the fucking case. Like, the cancer's incurable. That was my dark negative moments. I'm probably going to fucking die now anyway. After everything that's happened, I'm not going to be here for the boys. My daughter's died. Cancer's incurable, and actually it was things were looking really bad for me. Wasn't necessarily given a death date, but we were looking at probably about 12 months from that point. Inflammatory breast cancer generally carries a 2 to 5 year prognosis upon diagnosis, and when you're stage 4, you're at the 2 year end of that spectrum, and I'd already had it for a year, so we were looking at 12 months. And that's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to deal with. I'm not going to see my 2 boys start school because they were only 1 and 3, just after Ali had died. We were grieving the death of our daughter. I felt responsible for that. And this was all playing out in the public eye. And obviously then there was the trolls that come with that, and people who were like, yeah, well, that's what she deserves. She should lie in her cancer bed and die. That baby's better off dead than with a mother, selfish mother like her. And that's, no, totally not joking. That's the kind of pond life that does fester on our planet, unfortunately. And they're the comments that you do remember, but overwhelmingly the support I had was absolutely amazing, from people that I have never met and never will meet, from all over the world, just sending so much support and positivity to us. And having been a police officer for 12 years, where you become extremely cynical, it was an amazing experience for me in that respect, because it made me realise that actually my fellow human being fundamentally was good. But then I was forced into a position where if I had 12 months to live, 2 kids to raise, a daughter to grieve and bury and all those things, but also only 12 months in which to try and make some kind of impact on my kids that potentially wouldn't remember me. And it's a lot of pressure.
I can't even comprehend that in my head. Every time I hear it, it just doesn't seem like that's real life that you actually
it's insane. No, it was like falling off a cliff. And this is what I say when I'm depressing people in my talks, is that it is like falling off the edge of a cliff and not knowing when you're going to hit the bottom, what you're going to look like when you hit the bottom, if you're going to recover, how the fuck do you stop falling? And the initial fall is shock, fear, complete lack of control. And I needed to get a grip of myself, where I thought, right, how can I survive this for whatever time that's going to be? And that's trying to, as a climber, you're meant to turn to the cliff face and grab hold of anything you can and get 3 points of contact. And that's what I tried to do. And there were many things that caught me, but the main thing was the children, because I couldn't have Ali's life just be about complete and utter sadness and, feeling guilt and everything. And I needed the 2 boys, whatever time that was they had left with me, to be positive, so that their memories of me weren't all sad and dark. So it was grabbing these bits of rock coming off the cliff and trying to slow myself down and then think how I was going to pull myself back up again for whatever time that would be. And the more steps I took back up that cliff face, the stronger I felt and the more determined. And my realization in all of that was I have no control over when I'm going to die, just like you and everybody listening. We have no control over that. Yeah. We're all going to die. Shock, horror, headline news, we're all going to die. But you're in control of how you get to that point, whenever that point will be. And what do you want that time to be like? Do you want it to just be total fear of what is the inevitable, or letting it go and enjoying that time that you have in whatever way that is, whatever it is you want to do? And my punchline is exist in fear and sadness, or live in strength and happiness. Exist or live. And I wanted to live. I was just determined and really stubborn and an angry Bristolian. And I was not having my headstone read, Heidi Loughlin, sad mum dies of cancer. That was just not going to be me. I had so much more to do in whatever short period of time that was going to be. And that was at the end of 2015.
Jesus Christ.
And I am not coming at you from beyond the grave. I am still very
alive and well.
Alive. Exactly. I am alive and I am an enigma. And it is, people are surprised. Oh my God, you know, you're not dead.
Yeah, I completely, I don't care what anyone says. I completely believe that that's a lot to do with your mindset and attitude. You never give up. You climbed the cliff, you kept going, and you faced what most people would have hid from and just accepted and give up.
Yeah. Well, it certainly hasn't worked against me being positive and stubborn. And that's not to say I'm some robot that is always like happy, or, you know, there are moments of shit, darkness, and feeling sorry for yourself, but they pass really quickly, because I realise in those moments, I feel really crap because I feel crap.
Yeah.
So,
which you're allowed to do, Jesus.
Yeah, but then you pull yourself out quicker, because you realise it's just so much easier to just get on with life. And I certainly don't wake up every morning thinking, oh my God, I've got cancer. And I don't. There are days that go by when I don't even think about it. Ali's different. I think of Ali all the time.
Yeah.
And that's something you don't ever get over it. It's something that grief just runs alongside your life, and you learn how to manage it, and that's it.
When they say time's a healer, I personally, I don't believe it's a healer. I just believe it's more of a coping mechanism that you
totally you just become more equipped to deal with it. That's it.
It becomes the norm.
You don't get over it. There are certain things in life, like I'm not mourning my boyfriend who dumped me when I was 18. I can't even remember his name. There are things that you obviously get over. I bet he's like, oh, gutted. Heidi, especially when all my hair fell out, he must have looked at me and thought, wow, she's fit. But yeah, I can't even remember the question now, but I've waffled.
Oh, no, you've covered it, love. But like I say, every single time I hear that story, it just gets me. And I know it will for everyone listening, because it really is incredible. The other thing I want to ask is, how do you find juggling what you do in terms of working and having an income with being a mother?
Yeah, so it is really, really hard, like it is for any parent trying to juggle all the different things going on in life. I have to be super organised. I've had to get to a point, things have got, obviously with lockdown aside, I love talking and I love meeting people, but I had to be really organised, and I had to start to get to a point where I had to turn things down. So I had to be very selective on the jobs that I took on. It either had to be something that paid really well, that's the shallow part of it, made a difference to somebody, or got me into a position where I would have a new experience of some kind, because I'm all about new experiences. If somebody rang me and said, hey, how do you feel about wing walking? I'll be like, I'm there. Where is it? Like anything like that. Pardon?
Which you have actually done.
Which I have actually done. I'm actually sat in my wing walker aerobatics t-shirt as we speak.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. So anything like that. So because you get inundated with requests to do things all the time that are obviously for free, for charities and things like that. And I totally understand that. But unfortunately, I got to the point, because I just never wanted to say no to anybody, say yes to everything. And I realised, oh my God, I'm never at home.
Yeah.
This is really bad. The whole reason I do what I'm doing is for the kids and for myself, and I'm spending the whole time bouncing up and down the country to all these different things which are helping other people but are not helping my family. Yeah. So I had to really sort of hone down the things that I would agree and not agree to do. And people feel really conflicted about stuff like that. It's really hard to say no to people, but some very wise people who are much better at all these kinds of things than me, and are like super famous people and incredible people, sat me down and said, this is how you've got to do it. It's not about being ruthless, it's about prioritizing your family. Yeah. So it's got to help your family
as well, like you, because that's kind of been very good for you mentally, going up and down the country doing everything.
No, because you don't know your arse from your elbow after a while, and it does get really difficult. So I just had to get a bit more of a backbone to be able to say to me, I'm really sorry, I might be able to do it next year, but I can't do it this year because I'm already away like 10 times that month, and I just can't do it. And it's the juggle of, the kids being the main thing, and obviously the school day is very short, and And I've also got horses, which are a huge priority of mine. But even though one threw me off this week and has given me concussion, I still love him very dearly.
Played a game of Bucky, didn't you, this week, Heidi?
Oh my God, he was determined. He literally $6 in the space of about a second, and I was no way I was sitting on that. So it fell off, landed on my arse, and then smacked my head off the floor. So that was great fun. But it keeps you alive, reminds you very much that you're alive, and it's only a bit of concussion. I'm all right now. So but yeah, it's a juggling act, and I had to really had to run a diary properly and that kind of thing. But just like anyone that works, it is really hard. And fundamentally, or historically, should I say, a lot of the time that role does rest with the mother of the family to juggle all these things. But in our household, I feel like we've moved a lot further beyond that, and there's a lot of give and take in here. And also I have an amazing mother who does lots of childcare for me, so I'm really lucky in that respect. And also really good network of friends. So all my friends that I grew up with still live in my town, and we've all got kids the same age, so we do swap kids around a bit sometimes because we're all working mums. So
it's just that yours is especially more difficult because it's not routine, is it? Like somewhere one time you're going to be home another time. It's literally very sporadic. It can be anything, anywhere. So that part I think must be so hard to organise, because it
can be hard to organise. There's a lot of travelling that goes on. But I can't sit here and make you feel sorry for me, because there's nothing more peaceful than sitting on a train reading a book. Because how often when you're at home do you ever get a couple of hours where you haven't got someone going, I need you to wipe my bum. Oh, the dog's just chewed one of the shoes downstairs, or someone's done something. Oh, he's wiped a bogey on me. Like, you don't ever really get any time. I used to lock myself in the bathroom and pretend I was going for like a 25-minute poo, just staying on a train for like 3 hours sometimes is blissful. It becomes a chore when it's back-to-back traveling. But I also got to that point where I tried to negotiate my dates a lot better, rather than being like, I can do any time that suits you. I've been a bit more like, I try to aim for one trip a week if I can, because that's 3 days away then, because I've got a day traveling, a day at the conference, and a day coming back. So that's hard. But then a lot of the time with conferences, obviously there's none at the moment, but they have fixed dates, and you either got to do the work or you don't. So I have to be mindful of that as well. And I don't like saying no to people. So but I try to work.
Prioritise, don't you? There needs to come
just prioritise, definitely.
So what has been, in terms of, obviously this is going to be really hard to answer, but the most difficult time of the journey so far, in terms of from when you started doing the inspirational talking and the up and down the country, what part of that's been the most difficult?
The work part, you mean?
Yeah.
It was probably, there's been a couple of instances. There was one, I never let a client down, ever. And there was a job that I took that was down south, and I was really ill. And I still did it. And they had no idea that I was really ill, but I was really ill. I had when you pick up a bug, it's like you've got it for the first time, because your immune system's whacked and you feel like absolute death. And I put this brave face on for the whole time I was down there, and it was this amazing conference, and I really wanted to stay for the evening, but I was hanging out of my backside. And I remember, luckily my friend had come with me, and I got into the car and I just literally slept the whole way home, and it was just before Christmas, and then I was on my backside then for like 5 days, really poorly. That was really hard, because when you're self-employed, obviously, as everyone will know, that if you don't work, you don't get paid. And also, being a speaker, you've got a reputation. If you end up being somebody that cancels, even with the most legitimate reason in the world, you're really letting somebody down. And
it's a pressure, isn't it, Jesus?
It's a lot of pressure. It's an awful lot of pressure. And and you've got to really pull it out the bag. You can't go on stage and do a half-assed job. You've got to give everybody what what they really want. And actually, funnily enough, it was probably one of my most successful talks that I've given, probably because
why you're on your back for 5 days afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. All the energy went into that, and the turkey was just rubbish then on Christmas Day. But that was really difficult. But also, generally, at the beginning of the speaking, after the event that I did with Tony at Primus, I did a couple of other jobs after that, and I was really struggling because I started speaking really soon after Ali had died.
How soon was it?
Probably about 6 months.
Was it?
Yeah, it was really soon. That's aside from all the TV stuff I'd done, because we were filming a documentary throughout the whole of the pregnancy and everything as well.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not something I necessarily always talk about, actually, because people are like, what? So there was a film crew there when she was born. We had documentary crew. It was for the Discovery Channel. It's called Extraordinary Pregnancies. And I can tell every time it goes out somewhere in the world, because I get a huge flurry of
I'll have to watch that. I didn't even know that.
If you can find it, it's out there somewhere. I get a big flurry of followers from a certain random part of the world where the documentary's been aired, because obviously it was filmed like 5 years ago now. So when I first started speaking properly then at these events, I'd obviously take people through the story step by step, and I would get to the point about Ali, and then I couldn't bounce back.
Yeah.
So people would be leaving feeling extremely sad, and it's not what I wanted, but I feel like I was going into maybe too much detail about her actual death, because I was grieving openly on stage in front of people. And actually, do I regret it? No, because it's all part. I mean, the product that I am now is very fully functioning, and I'm sure without all those experiences, would I be as open and everything as I am? Because you can actually ask me anything.
I bet that actually, in some weird way, probably helped with the recovery, because you were probably talking about it more than you would if you were not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And the more you do it, you toughen up, don't you? As a human being, that's how we deal with things, and that's why it's never a good thing to sit on your feelings, because the more you share it, you take a piece of the fear away every time, and you don't ever want to have areas that are no-go. And like in the literal sense, Ali was born at Southmead Hospital in Bristol, and I went through my pregnancy with one of my best friends, Lucy, and she was due a baby not long after Ali's what would have been her original due date if she'd been full term. And I'd always wanted to be a birthing partner at a birth, and she still, even after Ali died, she still said, do you want to do it? So I found myself back at Southmead, where Ali was born and had died, about 5 months after she died, as a birthing partner for my friend. And there are people that said to me, how could you even enter that building? How on earth could you watch a baby being born? How could you do that? And I said, it's just a building. It's an experience wholly separate to the one that I've had, even to the point the midwives recognised me and were like, oh, you're Heidi, that lady. And I was like, I am. They're like, how are you here? And I'm like, because I'm here. This is what I want to do. And honestly, it made it, you don't want to have places that you can never go to, because they just build. It's a fear bubble that it just will build and build and build. Like dates. Oh, well, on her birthday every year, you must lock yourself in a room and just bawl your eyes out. I don't. I think of her every single day. I honour her every single day, but that day is still just a date. It's still a day of the week. It's still a certain year. I know mums that have lost babies that the month that they died will grieve that entire month every single year. So every single year, they know for 28 to 31 days, they're going to be desperately sad.
Yeah.
Now, that for me doesn't work. I don't want to have areas, emotions, or physical places in my life that I cannot go. And
you're just insanely strong. Insanely. You are. I'm sorry. There's no two ways about it. You are bloody strong. Because for you, I think as well, you're very, very selfless. Like, you're one of the most selfless people I've ever met, because to do that for your friend and put yourself through a risk of what you could have put yourself into, which was a turmoil of emotions, is just incredible. You are.
Thank you.
Now, this one is... There's so much, because I know obviously the boys know what you do, don't they, and why you do it.
Yes.
Yeah. So are they old enough to get it or not? Do they just think they're talking on stage, or do they get what you're doing?
They because I've got a book, they refer to me to all their mates as a famous writer, which always cracks me up because no one's ever heard of me. My mum said we went to an Airbnb, which is a bit naughty because I'm banned from Airbnb,
Okay.
which you're probably aware of, for a wholly different reason, which is probably a whole podcast worth of information. Booked under somebody else's name. We went to an Airbnb in August. And the woman who owns the Airbnb lived on site in a separate building. And she came over one day and to my youngest Tate said, "Oh, would you like to come pick some blackberries with me?" And off he went. And she was like, "Oh, blah, blah, blah." And apparently he said to her, "My mum is really famous in England, but she's not here in Wales." We were 25 minutes from Bristol, and he was going, over here in Caerleon, my mum's not famous, but in England she's really famous, and she writes loads of books. Because there were 3,000 copies of the book that I wrote. They think I wrote each individual copy of the book, which is really sweet. And so the lady went up to one of the other girls and went, "Is one of the mums here like really famous? Because her son's just told me she is." And it was just so funny because they've got absolutely no concept. But it is weird for them because they do see me pop up on the TV quite often. And they're like, "Oh, there's mummy. Mummy's on the telly." And then so some of their mates at school think I'm famous. One actually asked my autograph, which was really amusing. I mean, there was a time when I was in Closer magazine or something, I can't remember, that's terrible. Someone from Closer magazine is probably listening and we've got no idea who she is, but a magazine like that. And it was when I was bold, and my mum had it open on the coffee table, and then next to it was the TV Times, and they were screening some of the Harry Potter films. And the pitch advertising it was Lord Voldemort, for those of you that know. Obviously he's as bold as the day's long. And Tate went, "Oh, look, Mummy's in the magazine again," and pointed at Voldemort. So so for them it's all totally, they think that I go away and talk about books and writing, and that's all I do, and it's really easy, and then I stay in hotels. So that's what the kids think. But they're very aware of the cat. They go, "You talk about cancer," and I'm like, "Yeah." So the kids have a very interesting vocabulary, and did from the bottom up, really. They always knew the words death, dead, dying, cancer, blah blah blah. We've never sugar-coated anything for them. We don't want to give them confusing or misleading things like, what happened with Ali? Well, she didn't pass away, or she didn't go to sleep and never wake up, because you're going to install fear of going to bed in your children if you say fluffy things like that to them. You've got to be quite black and white when you deal with things like that. And I've taken both of them to chemotherapy with me so that they don't have that unknown. And within 5 minutes after seeing all the people shuffling about with their bags of drugs and everything, and me having this IV and everything, they're bored. They were bored out of their brains, and they were over it.
Yeah.
And that's building resilience in my kids. And that was a big part of it. Like, whatever's going to happen to me, whenever it's going to happen to me, the lasting effects that I'm leaving behind would going to hopefully be two really well-rounded, resilient children that are strong, but are also in touch with their emotions, feel free to speak about exactly how they feel, and don't have areas where they feel they cannot ever go, whether it be in their mind or physically. That's important to me.
That's literally ties in nicely with my last question was, if your children could learn anything from you, what would it be?
That humour, although people just waft it off as a defence mechanism, is massively underrated as one of the best medicines that can be prescribed. If you retain your sense of humour in life, you will always have the edge taken off any traumatic situation, not necessarily at the time of it happening, but how you deal with things in the future, and always being open and honest about how you feel. And that's not to the point of being walking down the road and saying to somebody, bloody hell, love, you shouldn't be wearing those trousers. It's having respect for people, but about your emotions, and about never feeling bad for showing emotion or being upset, or you should, if you can, always retain really good communication skills. There are so many emotional, mental health problems that can be worked through by basically just talking about them. And I know that's not rocket science, but fundamentally that is such a key life lesson that I really hope I've instilled in the boys.
Well, I'm pretty sure you have, love, because you instill it everywhere else you go, and they're both very, very lucky to have you as a mother. Very, very lucky. And I mean that from...
And I taught them pull my finger.
Well, see what I mean? Top man. But it's honestly like every time I hear your story and speak to you, I love it even more, and I love you so much. I think you're absolutely insanely, you're a one-off. So I'm so honoured to know you, and I'm so grateful that you came on and spoke about it with me. So I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for having me. And before you cut me off, which I can see your fingers on the button poised ready to go, this is the bit where I have to try and big up myself. For anyone out there's listening that's ever desperate for a speaker, with a speaker with a difference, I'm an unknown, but I've got a story, it's unique, and I won't leave you crying unless it's with laughter. Heidi Loughlin, obviously. And if you want to listen to a bit more of my story in depth, there's a book out there called Heidi's Lifeline, which is a really shit title, but it's a cracker of a book. And that's available on Amazon with 5-star reviews, if you would like it. And Carla liked it, I think, so yeah, that's always good. Have I got anything else to say? No. Thank you for listening to me. Sorry about the swearing.
You have been listening to the Money Making Mothers podcast with Carla Edwards. If you have enjoyed the show, then leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Make sure to tune in next time, and don't forget, you can have it all.